Samsung is on a freaking roll lately, and I'll just come out and say it, the Galaxy Tab S6 is the best Android tablet ever, and I think some Apple users will actually be better suited to buy this instead of an iPad. If Android tablets were anywhere near as close to this in terms of quality a few years ago, this would have saved the industry as a whole. But I'm still very glad that Samsung is not giving up. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to make an amazing website. About 4 months ago, I reviewed the cheaper Galaxy Tab S5e, and I've really enjoyed using it. But overall, I couldn't recommend it for most people because of one reason, which is no longer an issue with the Tab S6, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. If you like bang for the buck, Samsung really delivers. We have a gorgeous 10.5-inch OLED HDR10+ display. It's not only capable of playing 1440p YouTube videos, but also in HDR, which looks absolutely brilliant, and this is something that isn't supported with the S5e. That, along with the 16:10 aspect ratio, makes it clearly more suitable for video than the major tablet brand. Base storage is at a proper amount for 2019, 128GB, and that is paired with 6GB of RAM, but for a reasonable $80, that can actually be brought up to 256GB of storage with 8GB of RAM. And if somehow you start running out of room, do not worry, you can add more storage later with cheap micro SD card expansion. Holding it in your hands feels fantastic. The edges start out flat, then take on a subtle curve, which actually makes it more comfortable in the hand than either the iPad Pro or the Air. It weighs only 430 grams, and that with a 5.5mm thickness makes it feel almost weightless in your hands. That's practically the same weight as the S5e, even though this has S Pen support and other hardware improvements. I really praise the S5e's quad speakers, which bested all iPads, and surprisingly, Samsung managed to make them even better and slightly louder. Samsung went for an under-display fingerprint reader this time, and it's quite a bit faster and more consistent than the ultrasonic sensors in their flagship phones. That is because it's using an optical design that requires the screen to be turned on at first, but I would definitely take this trade-off for the faster and more reliable sensor. One major value proposition is the inclusion of the S Pen in the box, which has a button on it and is charged magnetically on the back. It stays in place fairly well and won't fall off, but it can be bumped off. When using it, you can also attach it on the side for quick storage. I like the soft tip and it works fairly well, but there is noticeable lag, especially if you draw or write quickly. If you buy Samsung's keyboard, there is a magnetic slot which will keep it in place perfectly, and in general, I really like the keyboard other than one complaint. But before that, I have to give a shout out to a company that I have absolutely no complaints about, our sponsor, Squarespace. I've built many websites using Squarespace and have been recommending them for over 5 years now. I've made websites from scratch, custom templates, I've even tried multiple platforms, and Squarespace is by far my most recommended method. Whether you're wanting to build a portfolio site, e-commerce, blog, or anything else, they have got you covered with great cross-platform designs to choose from and built-in security certificates and SEO tools. This means that your website will rank much better in searches, and that's all included for one low price, making Squarespace not only easy and fantastic looking, but also an amazing value. Head to squarespace.com/maxtech for a no credit card required trial, and if you sign up, you will get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Samsung's new keyboard is fairly innovative for an Android tablet because it features a multi-touch trackpad. Now, it is small and it does take some time to get used to, and even then, it won't match a great laptop, but for those looking for a laptop-like experience, it is really nice to have, especially with DeX. I absolutely love the kickstand, which is super adjustable with just the right amount of tension. This is much more usable than the iPad Pro's keyboard, and I love the fact that you can remove the keys and just use the stand by itself along with the S Pen holder. The actual keys themselves are just okay. I didn't love them at first, but after typing for about an hour or so, I started to get used to them. I really wish that they were slightly larger, especially for the number keys, and I wish they weren't as kind of scrunched over to the left-hand side to make room for those extra keys. Also, it is quite pricey, the same price as the iPad Pro's keyboard, but for those who do a lot of typing, it will be a no-brainer. My biggest complaint with the S5e was the CPU and even more so the graphics, which limited performance and longevity. Samsung packed a Snapdragon 855 into this thin chassis, and while it's not as powerful as the iPad Pro, which beats out a lot of laptops, the real-world performance was quite good. I edited a handful of 24 and 42 megapixel raw images with Lightroom, and it did fantastic. The only time I noticed it being slower than the iPad Pro is when denoising the raw images, but even then it was a slight difference. exporting 10 raw images was actually quite a bit faster with the Tab S6. I'm not sure why, but that was the case. It also performed quite well in games. The only time we noticed a difference was in the most demanding titles like Asphalt 9, and in most games it is very similar as far as the experience. Now one area it does stand out is the comfort when you're gaming for a long time because of those curved edges. So all of this sounds fantastic so far, but where are the downsides? Well, mainly it is with Android, and not even with Android by itself, but the apps not being optimized for tablets. The hardware itself is fantastic, but if software developers aren't optimizing the experience, in apps your experience is going to be worse than with iPadOS, which is much more popular overall. In Lightroom Mobile, the S Pen button didn't do anything, whereas with the Apple Pencil, I could just tap it to swap tools, which was very convenient. So this is my one big issue with the Galaxy Tab S6. Not the hardware itself, that is great, it is top notch, but it is the software and the optimizations which are really holding back this great tablet. And to be completely honest, I'm really not sure how much better this will get in the future. Samsung is doing a great job with their own apps, and of course web apps will work great, so for most people this might be more than enough, but if you want access to a huge library of apps that are optimized for tablet use and for pen use, you might be out of luck. Now Samsung has a secret weapon with their tablets, and that is DeX, which is a PC-like interface that can now be used with or without a display. This is great if you want to be very flexible with multitasking, and unlike the iPads, you can actually use it with full mouse support, and of course now the trackpad, which is fantastic. So to start wrapping all of this up, if you know that you want an Android tablet, definitely get this one. It is well worth the extra cash over the Tab S5e. But if you're on the fence between going with, say, an S6 or an iPad, that is going to be a tough choice. Personally, I would definitely choose the Tab S6 over an iPad Air, but not over the iPad Pro. I do like the Tab S6 more, especially for things like web use, video watching, music, and other simple laptop-like uses, especially with that trackpad, and it is also a better value with more storage coming with the base and the S Pen being included, but the iPad has a few standout features. That A12X is an absolute beast in performance, making games smoother, and that 120Hz screen and the Apple Pencil makes writing and drawing a much smoother, lag-free experience. The biggest one of all is the app optimization. There are just so many great optimized apps available, with more and more coming out, and that matters a whole lot. Right now, you can actually pick up an iPad Pro for $674 instead of $800, which does help close the gap value-wise. I'll go ahead and leave a link down to that deal in the video description. But if you're somebody that knows that you absolutely do not want an iPad, that is totally fine. The Tab S6 is the perfect choice for you. I think you will not be disappointed, especially with the hardware. You're gonna love almost everything about it, but make sure you do expect some hiccups, especially with third-party apps. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, click that little circle above and also that notification bell. And if you guys want to see our other comparison videos with the S6 going against the S5e or the iPad Pro, you guys can click right over there. This has been Max with Max Tech, and I will see you in the next video.